today we finally get into the meat of the Touhou Retrospective, because without its dedicated fan base, the Touhou franchise would be nothing but an above average series of indie shooters. So, I'm going to start covering the rest of the Touhou fandom, which is a lot, believe me, and, well, there's obviously not enough time to do everything, because I would be doing this retrospective for the rest of my life then. So, I'm going to cover some of my personal favorites and some of the most popular things. That being said, if I miss one of your personal favorites, go ahead and leave a link in the comment below, so you can share it with everyone else. Now, without further ado, I'm going to start covering all the Touhou-made fan games on computer. But, well, there's a bit of a problem again. You see, I originally had a list of 12 or so games I wanted to do for the retrospective, but for one reason or another I couldn't do the majority of my hit list. Some of them were just impossible to find, others simply wouldn't run. When you're getting error message completely in Japanese, and you can't read kanji, it's kinda hard to figure out just what went wrong. So I know I'm leaving out some popular ones like Touhou Sky Arena and Komaju Densetsu, but if I can't run the game, there's not much I can do. Now that we got that out of the way, let's start with Pachikon, Defend the Library. This, like many of the most popular fan games, was developed by our old friends over at Twilight Frontier, the team making the in-canon Touhou fighters. All the games I've seen from them are very high quality. While this isn't their highest benchmark, they programmed a simple and fun little game here. The setup is that Marissa is constantly trying to steal Patrouille's books, a very common theme in TF's games. So Patchy creates an army of living dolls to defend her library. Problem is, Marissa has created her own army of dolls to steal the books, so it's tactical doll-on-doll combat with the fate of the library at stake. The gameplay is basically an RTS tower defense game, where you have to defend the magic grimoires for a set period of time versus increasingly more powerful swarms of enemies by spawning and upgrading dolls that fight in various ways. You also have 5 one-shot powers to even the odds if you're getting overwhelmed. The easy setting is a good way to learn the rules before jumping into the higher settings, which do not screw around. The game time is fixed, so this is a great little game to load if you have about half an hour to kill. It's not as visually impressive as many other TF games, but it's good for what it is. Next up is Megaman, a Megaman clone courtesy of Twilight Frontier again. In order to keep Marissa out of her library, Patchy is creating an insanely complex defense system. Undaunted, Marissa enlists Alice to help her storm the place and make out with the Tones. That's all they really have to justify the Mega Man progression, really. As you would envision, you control Marissa, who selects from 8 Touhou masters to fight before she assaults Dr. Patchy's fortress. They even rip off the fortress reveal. Wow. Marissa controls just like the Blue Bomber, making it super easy to jump in. However, she's not alone. You can switch to Alice anytime using the pause menu, who has her own independent life bar. She also plays completely differently, as she has a screen-long laser that she can walk around while using. The trade-off is that it's really weak and takes a long time to kill enemies, so she really isn't as useful as you would think except against certain enemies and bosses. The other quirk is that only the character that collects the orb left behind by the boss gets the special weapon, and it's slightly different for each girl. The graphics are bright and colorful, the sound is very Mega Man-y, which works perfectly, and the controls are tight and responsive. But this game is actually harder than any real Mega Man game, which are already difficult platformers to begin with. The brutality stems from 2 factors. First, even though you effectively have 2 full life bars per life, health drops and extra lives are stupidly rare. And since Alice is near useless in the main stages, you're always begging for a life drop. Second, if one girl dies, you have to go either back to the checkpoint or the beginning of the stage. Would it have killed the programmers to let you soldier on with the other character? Also, these stages are about twice the length of the average Mega Man level, making it all the more grueling when you have to go back to stage select after losing all of your lives. However, the thing that pissed me off the most is the fact that if you get game over, you lose all of your sub-tanks, which are spellbooks in this game. Jeez, show some mercy! I find this game extremely frustrating, but addictively challenging. I had to rage quit a few times, especially during Aaron's stage, but I always wanted to go back for more. It's a special kind of game that turns you into a masochist. The type of game that seemed to die with the 16-bit era. If you have a very durable controller, then give this one a look. Just be prepared, because Mega Mario is a very harsh mistress. Now it's time for Dyna Marissa 3D, a game my PC can barely handle. Thus the graphics are pretty choppy in my footage. I'm sure it runs better on a faster PC though. Since this is yet another Twilight Frontier effort, you can already guess the plot. Just add magic guns and you're all set. The gameplay is your basic third-person shooter. An odd choice for the franchise, but completely playable nonetheless. You can collect a variety of different weapons to dispatch enemies with, and it appears to be a well-made game, but this really isn't the type of gameplay I enjoy. Maybe if my PC could run it better, I'd be willing to give it another look, but as it stands, I really have no desire to load up this game ever again. Taking a quick break from Twilight Frontier, here's Boedan, one of the earlier fan titles. Well, it's just a Danmaku shoot-em-up starring Flandre. Instead of running through the gameplay level by level, there are 50 battles to slog through in any order you wish. There's honestly not much to talk about here, it just kind of exists. There's really no reason to play this over one of the official shooters. And last, but certainly not least, we're checking out the most recent title in Twilight Frontier's Super Marissa series, New Super Marissa Land. The plot is shockingly not about Marissa invading the Scarlet Devil Mansion yet again. This time she lost 6 colored mushrooms, and she's going to get them back. On a side note, it's really easy to tell who Twilight Frontier's favorite character is. I wonder if they made Marissa overpowered in the fighters too. Anyway, this is exactly the type of game you think it is. A Mario clone. Since everyone watching this has likely played a Mario game, I'm not going to insult your intelligence by telling you how to play it. I will tell you about the quirks of the game though. Unlike most Mario titles, you don't have a half-dozen special items to play around with, you have one. It's interestingly one of the more obscure Mario parties they gave Marissa too, the Super Ball from Super Mario Land. It works exactly the same way, bouncing off walls in the floor and collecting coins, or stars here, as it goes. The major difference here is that the entire game is built around the player taking advantage of it to get hard to reach stuff. I really like what they did here. It's like a fully realized sequel to Super Mario Land. The graphics are bright and colorful, as you would expect with this kind of gameplay. The sound is there, but it's kind of forgettable. However, the controls feel a touch loose. It's not so much so that they're broken, but they're just not as responsive as an actual Mario game, making precise platforming a more harrowing endeavor than it needs to be. Still a great effort with a good number of levels to keep you busy for quite a while. Well, that wraps up all of the Touhou Fan Games I could get to work. Believe me, it wasn't as many as I would have liked. But whatever the case, next time, I think it's time to look at some of the mobile Touhou Fan Games. Yes, there's actually a ton of them on the Android. And I'm going to do my best to cover every single one of them. It's a lot harder than you might have thought, folks. See you then!